Yeah.
So that was a strategy. Personally, I use Sony a7S3 and then 1.4 Sony G Master lens with an Sony 1.8 lens. So all primes.
Yeah.
Then I had an on-camera mic and some lapels with sound recording. And one super, super cool thing that I took with me was a small light. It was a non-light with beautiful soft cover that creates beautiful lighting. And that little thing saved me so much because we had interviews at night. And if I didn't have that, it would be pitch black. But you have this small little light and you ask someone, could you please hold it for me? And all of a sudden you have a beautiful interview where you can see your talents, emotions very clearly.
Yeah. That's smart, getting like a bystander if there is a lot of people around to give them a light and get your angles and stuff. In fact, you could probably take a set of 3 and get 3 people to give you like the front light, hair light, back light feel. Really set up a good lighting thing. That's so good. And yeah, that's really resourceful as well. What did you find was your go-to lens for that?
24 was my go-to lens. I barely took it out of my camera. Also, when you switch lenses on the street and it's super dusty, dust can get into your camera, which you don't want. So I just try to stick to 24 as much as I could.
Yeah, that always scares the hell out of me with the E-mount, Sony's in particular, because when you take off the lens, the sensor is like right on the surface there. If you've got Canon or Panasonic or Blackmagic, everything, the sensor's kind of buried in the lens a bit into the camera body. But the Sony's just always seem to be right at the surface and at the thing.
Sensitive camera.
And did you shoot according to the lens, to the 24? What was your sort of strategy when framing up and getting portraits and things like that?
24 is such a beautiful length on full frame because you can do anything. You can go and do a wide shot, you can do a mid shot, and you can go do a close-up as well. Yeah, just did exactly that.
Yeah, so you moved your body. If you wanted to go for a close-up, you move in close to them?
Of course. It was mostly shot handheld.
Yep.
And I did hire some camera operators on the ground as well. And you can immediately see if someone is filming with gimbal, because the first instinct of gimbal shooters, they will take the camera and start moving it around, whether you need it or not.
Yeah, that's so true. You can tell if they're coming from weddings, hey?
Yeah. And shooting handheld, when it comes to doco, I find it quite a good solution because handheld does give this really ground-like feel to your footage.
Yeah, like you're a person in the streets.
Yeah.
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 And Sony has the stabilization, in-body stabilization. So that was really a factor, like to getting a nice cinematic shot as well. There's a big difference from waving around a 5D or a C100 or something like that. And it's micro shakes and stuff, but you're getting smooth shots because your footage looks incredible. And the biggest knock on the biggest knock on Sony was skin tones. And so how did you find when you were editing and grading to finish this project, you're trying to match up skin tones and stuff like that?
When it comes to color science on Sony a7S3, it's just beautiful. And I really personally enjoy grading, color grading in DaVinci Resolve. And this camera has such beautiful colors that honestly grading it is as easy as putting a lot on top and then just adjusting your highlights, shadows, and midtones. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So if you love color, I seriously recommend this camera.
Sony, there you go. Sony will be loving to hear that. Because on those little DSLRs, that was the biggest knock for the longest time, is greens in the skin tones. It's tough to remove. And especially if your image starts falling apart if you're shooting 4.2 or 4.22 or something like that. But maybe they updated their color science with their Venice, because the Venice stuff looks insane. Their next level, that's something they really focused on. And Sony always seemed like a camera bunch that like listen to their users and then make big adjustments. That's super cool. What other type of gear did you have? You had a tripod for a part of it?
Yes, I took a tripod, but not what you think. So this was a tiny little tripod. If you extend it, it's 72 centimeters high, which is super light, super compact, but also very sturdy. And you can put it in the mud, on the ground, in the sand, it will stay there.
Yeah.
And the beauty of using table tripods is that you can set it up in a room like a proper tripod of any height you want if you have supportive chairs or tables. But also when you are on the street recording, what I had to do was kneel down, and sometimes this would give me the perspective of kids who would flock around me. So when I'm on the ground, you can see everyone's face as well. And that's just the beauty of small tripods. They just make you closer to the ground.
Yeah, closer to the kids, closer to, yeah. And what was your consideration for B-roll? Because I always find sometimes you get in the edit and you're like, God damn, I thought I held a shot for 10 seconds and you actually held it for 2 and you need it for 5. So what was were you always thinking of the edit? What was your process when you're shooting?
Regarding B-roll or regarding thinking about the edit?
You're thinking about the edit, yeah. What's your process when you're shooting? What are the decisions that you're making?
First of all, I try to script as much as possible. So if you know what kind of story you want to tell, you always know better what kind of shots you need. That always makes it better. And even parts that I had to record to camera, I had all of them scripted, because unlike some other people opinions, not everyone is a natural host.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to script everything you want to say. And regarding B-roll, yes, just capture as much as you can. But in a place like Pakistan, everything is so textured. Everything has rustiness, uniqueness, color to it. You can point your camera in any direction and you will find beautiful details. Yeah, so shooting B-roll just dependent on how much time do you have and also the intensity of the situation, because every time you're shooting, you gather a crowd and all eyes are on you. And sometimes when you are with a fixer, when you shoot, someone who helps you deal with locals and translate, they get intimidated and they say, okay, let's go. So that is also the case why you sometimes can't get enough interviews of B-roll, because even as a filmmaker, you get used to lots of attention and intimidating situations, but the person you're with most likely is not used to this.
And they got to live there. So if you do anything wrong, they got to come back tomorrow and go to that same shop or something.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I always think about that because, yeah, you got to tread lightly in those cultures because, yeah, those people are helping you, but they usually know all the people or see all those people again. And if you've recruited that person and then betray the authenticity of their area, they will not be happy with that person.
Yeah. I think with me it only happened once in this documentary. It was when I went to a very remote place, in desert of Sal. And I was with my friend from Pakistan. His name is Adil, and he co-produced this documentary with me. And truly, such a smart person. He's a dental surgeon. He's amazing problem solver and really beautiful energy. When people gave interviews with him, they were always relaxed and smiling. Anyways, when we went to...
Sorry, go from anyways.
When we traveled to the small town where Adil lives and operates as a dentist for our child marriage and gypsy story, this caused massive attention. And he had 25 missed calls every single day about who is this woman with you.
From his wife.
He doesn't have a wife. Who is this woman with you? And the interesting thing was that they wouldn't sometimes call him directly. They would call his friends who are doctors and say, who is this woman with Dr. Adil? And everywhere we went with, I heard stories. Like we would go to a place that sells juice just to have a drink. And then next day, I hear a story. Oh, we see this blonde woman come to the juice shop. As the doctor of the doctor told us about this story. This is the clothes she was wearing. This was her face expression. That's how her hands were looking. And it's just a lot. For me personally, I found it comic because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But for him, no, he was intimidated with this very much. And
it's probably over there still answering questions about it.
The funny thing is that they had another Australian in that village in 2018. they still tell these stories about the foreigner visiting in 2018.
Yeah, because it's a small drop for us, but it's a massive impact for their culture, hey?
Yeah.
I think the point of it is to go in there and give them, I always liked entertaining. You spend time with the kids, you spend time kicking a soccer ball or playing cricket or something. And that's a consideration. Like, yeah, you want to go in there and get what you need for the edit and ideally get out safely with all your gear intact. But I think a huge part of it is what can you contribute? And you know that going there and being awesome is going to give them some good stories like that. So that's like the whole point of it. You contribute to their culture. As a cultural exchange, they give back to you. And then that's how the world becomes tight and knit. The world becomes a better place.
I agree with you. It's a great perspective. But sometimes I feel like it's difficult for me because in that village in the desert, women were staying at home. You can't see a woman on the street. So what are you supposed to do as a woman? Come out and do what? You are going to be an alien in any way, regardless of what you do. So might as well go and look for those stories. Yeah.
Yeah. And in some ways that would keep you safe. There's a social pressure there because you do stick out so much. If anything were to happen to you, there's a lot of people watching. A lot of people would know what's going on.
I just had the coolest person in town with me. When you have a dental surgeon and every person from that area and from the neighboring villages and cities is going to go for his services. So it's...
He's got the needles with the drugs.
It's like having a joker card.
Yeah.
When you have an amazing person for your project, it just changes everything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good investment. Like I think... what I see on YouTube Reels and Instagram Reels and stuff like that is a lot of filmmakers, maybe it's just the people that I see, but a lot of YouTube is gear reviews and this is the latest lens and the latest camera and stuff like that. But you get your camera, you get your lenses, like you said, keep it small, keep it simple. And the best investment you can make after that is local fixers and people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah, what I learned is it takes one person, but make it an amazing person. If you can find an amazing person, your project will just become magical. And hopefully that would also be translated through stories as well. Yeah, not just the experience on the ground.
And so where can people go to see your project and what do they need to look out for?
So the project is out on YouTube. As for right now, there is one episode out, but the episodes are coming out every Thursday. And just look for my name, which is Iryna Yaminska. And I bet you can't spell that. So maybe just put a link in description.
Yeah. Is there an Instagram handle that people can see your work with and find out the short content as well?
It's the same name that nobody can spell.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. That's wonderful. And now, obviously, you're right still in the middle of this. I'm guessing episodes 7, 8, 9 have not even been started editing yet. So
episode 2 has barely been started editing.
You pull yourself out of the park, which is a wonderful place to be because that's when you achieve so much. But thinking ahead, where would you like to go next and what sort of projects would you like to consider?
It will all depend on success of this project, to be honest. I need to live through this experience and get the feedback to understand whether this is feasible as a career choice to keep going with it. If this was successful enough to bring income, then of course I would love to keep doing this. This is amazing. And I am currently looking at Africa, places like Namibia, places like Algeria. But this is a long-term plan, which requires lots and lots of research. But I feel like Africa is calling, and it has a lot of stories, I'm sure. Yeah. And you are someone who traveled Africa and made documentaries, so this is pretty amazing. I might as well just ask you about your experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. When you say it's calling, I can see that being a really good fit right up your alley because there's tons of really cool people, tons of wonderful stories, people from all sorts of backgrounds. And it's just such a beautiful place. It's got the right amount of danger, but there's so many good experiences to be had there that I think, and the world never gets sick of seeing things from Africa, right? How many times has David Attenborough been to Africa and done African something like that? And you just never get sick of seeing it. It's just an amazing continent.
Terra incognita for me.
100%. You'll be there soon.